in this campaign process. You know, people want to hoodwink you. They want to bamboozle you. They want to run the okie doke on you. You heard of the okie doke? Let me give you an example of the okie doke. I tried to explain that Social Security is a real issue. We've got to do something about it. And because the population is getting older, and 78 million baby boomers are going to retire. So if we don't do anything, then over time, less money coming in, more money going out, benefits will erode. And around 2040, when a lot of people here will start to retire, you'll only get 75 cents on the dollar. Now you can do three things about that. You can raise the retirement age, but if you've been working for 50, 55 years, 60 years, that's a hard thing. I know that's right. You could lower benefits, but seniors are already having a tough time. That's why we want to eliminate income tax for seniors if they're making less than $50,000. Now there's one other thing you can do. You can, right now, you only pay Social Security on the first $97,000 of income, which means that for almost everybody in this country, except for the top 4%, every dollar you earn, you pay payroll tax. But I've got a friend, Warren Buffett, you may have heard of him, he earned $46 million last year, had a bad year. He only pays payroll tax on the first $97,000 income, which means one fraction of 1% of his income. So what I've said is let's lift the cap. Let's lift the cap. Now the reason I'm explaining this is not only because I want you to know specifically what I said about Social Security, but also because Senator Clinton sent out a flyer in Nevada and some other places saying that I was proposing a $1 trillion tax hike on working Americans. Now, you know, that is the okie doke. That's what I'm trying to explain. You know, if you're proposing to save Social Security for hard-working Americans, and then you're accused of wanting to increase their taxes when they're already paying the max on what they earn, then that's the okie doke. You're being bamboozled. You're being hoodwinked. Those are the kinds of campaign strategies that we see sometimes. This is what happens when you're in Washington too long. Some of you remember we had a debate in Nevada, and it was a good debate, but at one point somebody asked me, what's your biggest weakness? And I said, well, you know, I don't manage paper well. I'm losing stuff all the time and can't find my car keys. You know, this happens to you too. So I said, so I have to have somebody with me to make sure that things are going well. So then they asked Senator Edwards, well, what's your biggest weakness? He says, you know, I am just so passionate about ending poverty. And then they asked Senator Clinton, they said, well, I am impatient to bring about change in America. And I wanted to say to Tim Russell, can I have another turn? See, because when somebody asked me what my weakness was, stupid me, I thought you meant, what's your weakness? I didn't understand that we're in Washington. And then you don't mean what you say, you don't say what you mean. You can't let that happen. We've had enough of that if you're ready for change. But there's one last argument that we're hearing lately that's really interesting. It's not just about the meaning of change. I mean, I've been talking about change since the beginning of this campaign. I talked about it when we were up, I talked about it when we were down. And this change thing must be catching on because everybody's talking about change now. Mitt Romney's talking about change. You know, everybody. It's got signs that say change on it. You notice that? All right, that's okay. We want everybody on the change bandwagon, but the question is, of course, you know, who is best equipped to bring about change? You know, so that's one argument we've been having. But we also had another argument, and that is about the meaning of hope. You know, I talk about hope a lot, out of necessity, because the odds of me standing here today are very slim. I mean, think about it. I was born to a teenage mom. My parents separated when I was 2. My father left, so I was raised by a single mom and my grandparents, who had grown up in Kansas. We went to visit my grandfather's hometown of El Dorado, Kansas. So I was raised by a single mom and my grandparents. They didn't have a lot of money, they didn't have status, they didn't have fame. What they did have is love. They gave me an education, and they gave me some hope. They gave me hope. And so it's true, you know, we put hope on our signs. And I gave a speech in Boston at the convention about hope, and I wrote a book, The Audacity of Hope. But I noticed lately I've been getting criticized by folks who say, he's always talking about hope. He's peddling in false hopes. He is so naive. He is a hope monger. The implication is, if you talk about hope, then you must somehow be engaging in wishful thinking. Your head must be in the clouds. You must be passive, just waiting for things to happen to you. You're shirking from a fight. You're not willing to struggle. That's not what hope is. Hope is not blind optimism. Hope is not ignorance of the challenges and the hazards and the trapdoors that lie between you and your dreams. I know how hard it is going to be to provide health care for every American. The insurance and the drug companies, they're not just going to give up their profits without a fight. I know how hard it will be to have a different energy policy. The oil companies like writing the energy bills. I know it will not be easy to alleviate poverty in this nation, or to bring all of our schools up to the point where every child is learning. I know because I fought on the streets as an organizer. I fought in the courts as a civil rights attorney. I fought in the legislature. And I've passed some good legislation, but I've seen good legislation die because good intentions were not enough. They weren't fortified by political will and political